You broke my heart!
That anguished cry came from the home of Pastor Brodes Perry in Collierville, Tennessee, on April 4th, 2019. Just seconds after licensed therapist Latasha Daniels opened fire on the 36-year-old pastor and his wife.
I think there was like 5 or 6 gunshots in the first kind of blast, and then a little bit of a delay, a woman screaming, and then I heard some more, like probably 5 more.
When police arrived, Latasha held tight her weapon, refusing orders to drop it. Officers say she had already tried to reload. Inside that apartment were 3 people: Pastor Brodes Perry, his wife Tabitha Perry, and Latasha Daniels, one-time congregant, certified social worker, and secretly the pastor's lover. Tabitha had allowed Latasha into their home because they knew each other from Little Rock, Arkansas. Records show Latasha, a certified anger management specialist, was a member of Pastor Perry's former church in Little Rock. The two also worked together at a nonprofit. So there was no reason to be afraid. At least not yet. Minutes after Brodes got home, the 3 of them sat together and talked for a while. But something about Latasha's behavior felt off. Tabitha would later say that she had a weird vibe that made the energy in the room tense. Still, no one expected what would happen next. Before we get too deep, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you find value in these discussions. When Latasha finally stood up to leave, the pastor and his wife got up to escort her out. But just as they reached the doorway, Latasha suddenly turned around and pulled a gun from her jacket and emptied it into the pastor, screaming, "You broke my heart!" When Tabitha knelt beside her husband, Latasha screamed, "Get out of the way!" and shot Tabitha in the shoulder. Bleeding, Tabitha fled to a neighbor's door. Latasha still remained in the house, reloaded her gun, and waited until police stormed the hall. Even then she fought, kicking and clawing, before officers wrestled her into cuffs. She was taken straight to a hospital because of the injuries she sustained from struggling with the police so much. At the ER, she tried to bolt again, grabbing one officer's shirt and swinging at another. This woman walked into the home of a well-known Tennessee pastor, and without any warning, she unleashed a barrage of bullets on him and his wife. The wife survived, but the pastor, he died instantly. What really happened between them? What did Brodes Perry promise her that was worth his life? And how does a woman trained to help others keep their anger in check lose control in the most violent way imaginable? Pastor Brodes Perry was a man who seemed to have it all. At just 36 years old, he was the executive pastor at Mississippi Boulevard Christian Church in Memphis, Tennessee, one of the biggest churches in the city with a long history and thousands of members. People trusted him and looked up to him as a good leader, and of course, a man of God. But Brodes' journey to the pulpit began long before Memphis. He came from a long lineage of pastors, a third-generation pastor, raised in the church and shaped by principles of ministry from a young age. His father, Pastor John Perry, had led Philippi Missionary Baptist Church in Jacksonville, Florida, for 17 years. That's the same church Brodes grew up in. Before officially joining the ministry, Brodes studied at Florida A&M University, where he earned a degree in business. But the call to serve was stronger than any corporate ambition. In May 2008, at just 25 years old, Brodes stepped into his father's shoes, becoming the new pastor of that same church in Jacksonville. It was a big moment, a young man continuing the legacy of faith that had shaped his life. His ministry journey took him across the South. In June 2011, he became pastor of Christian education at Shiloh Metropolitan Baptist Church in Jacksonville. By July 2013, he was in Miami Gardens as a ministry consultant at Antioch Missionary Baptist Church. Then, in November 2014, he arrived in Little Rock, Arkansas, as the pastor of assimilation at St. Mark Baptist Church, helping new members feel connected and grow spiritually. Between 2018 and 2019 came the next big step, Memphis, Tennessee, where he became executive pastor of Mississippi Boulevard Christian Church. By his side was his wife, Tabitha Perry. They had met after Brodes' first marriage failed, and together they began building a new chapter of their life. Just 2 months before the tragedy, Brodes had posted a loving message for her on Valentine's Day. "Thank you for navigating this thing called life with me," he wrote about his wife Tabitha. In the post, he says it's their 5th anniversary. Looking from the outside in, they had an admirable relationship. But behind the public image, there was a secret. Brodes had been in a secret relationship with a 40-year-old woman named Latasha Daniels. But Latasha wasn't your regular side chick looking for a man to pay her bills. She was an intelligent and accomplished woman. She had a doctoral degree in behavioral health and ran her own anger management practice in Little Rock, Arkansas. According to state records, Latasha was licensed as a social worker in 2012.
I'm here at Links of Love, and I'm going to let what are you, the CEO, the founder, the creator?
I'm the founder.
I'm going to let her explain to you all what Links of Love is all about.
Greetings, everyone. Links of Love is a nonprofit organization, and we have a mentoring program called Image, which is individuals maturing and growing effectively. And we're out here today just to promote our agency and to let everyone know that Links of Love is in Union County, and we are here to serve the 15 to 18-year-olds who are high risk, at risk, or at risk for school failure. We want to make sure we can bridge the gap for mentoring so these young people can have what they need to be successful in life. That's what we're about, and we're also about community.
You'd be more surprised to know that Latasha had actually authored 2 self-help books. One of them is titled Level Up. In the overview, Latasha says, "This book shares my journey towards being set free from spiritual strongholds and emotional damage that had me bound to the pain of my past." Her second book is titled Feel, Deal, Heal, Acquiring Love, Liberty Over Vulnerable Emotions. Also in the overview, Latasha promises, "In these pages, you will discover the essential art of forgiveness, a powerful tool for healing and moving forward when offenses occur." So apparently, this woman knew so much about forgiveness and helping people work through their pain. But behind closed doors, she was battling her own emotional storm. And when it finally hit, she couldn't handle it. The secret relationship with Pastor Brodes Perry had ended, and it ended badly. According to reports, Latasha had gotten pregnant during the affair. And Brodes, despite being a pastor, despite everything he preached on the pulpit, allegedly convinced her to get rid of the fetus. She went through with it. And afterward, Brodes pulled away and ended things with her. But for Latasha, it wasn't that simple. She had loved this man and carried his baby at some point. She had believed his promises that he'd leave his wife and marry her. But now she felt used, discarded, and abandoned. And everything she thought she had meant to him suddenly felt like a lie. Over time, that heartbreak didn't heal. It only became worse. And slowly, it turned into anger, then into rage, and eventually, something much darker. On April 4th, 2019, Latasha made a decision. She armed herself with a gun, got into a car, and started driving east from her residence in Little Rock. This is a trip that takes a little over 2 hours, but she didn't mind because she was on a deadly mission. She drove straight to Collierville, Tennessee, to the Meridian Park Apartments, where Brodes and Tabitha Perry lived. It was just after 10 p.m., a quiet night in this small, peaceful town just outside Memphis. When she got there, she knocked on the door. Unfortunately, Tabitha innocently answered and let her in. Little did she know she had just welcomed darkness into her home and her life, as she knew it was about to take a devastating turn.
Neighbors who live here said it was a chaotic scene here last night with several gunshots and screams being heard throughout this complex, a complex where crime is rare and shootings of any type, domestic or random, are even more rare.
It was surprising. Definitely not expected here.
Pastor Brodes Perry was dead. He was just 36 years old. As the investigation unfolded, the full picture of this tragedy emerged. The news spread like wildfire. A pastor shot to death, his wife wounded, and the shooter, his side chick, a woman with a doctorate, an anger management therapist. None of that made any sense. Tabitha Perry told investigators, "The actions and words said by Natasha led her to believe her husband was having an affair." The investigation confirmed what many had suspected: the secret relationship, the pregnancy, the abortion, and the broken promises that led to this moment of deadly violence. The Mississippi Boulevard Christian Church was shaken to its core. The senior pastor, Dr. J. Lawrence Turner, addressed the congregation just days after the incident.
Not only have we experienced the death of Brodes Perry to violence, but the rumors swelling around his murder leave us shocked and shaken. To those of you who are wondering, how could this happen? How could this happen within our safe and loving church community? To those of you in particular who came to know him as I did during the 5 months he was at Mississippi Boulevard, I want to say, I'm heavy-hearted because of your pain.
He promised the church would review its hiring practices and do better going forward. Grief counselors were brought in to help members deal with the shock. One of Pastor Perry's friends in Florida shared their reaction.
I was, really sad, and I was like, not Brodes. I'm like, he just moved. Like, didn't he just move to a new city?
Latasha didn't face just one charge. She was hit with first-degree murder, attempted murder, assaulting police officers, using a gun during a violent crime. Her first court appearance drew intense attention. She pleaded not guilty before the judge. And for someone who committed such a horrific crime, Latasha was all smiles in court. She showed no emotions, let alone regrets. In fact, at one point, she was caught on camera blowing kisses to someone in the audience. Her attorney explained,
She's not used to being where she is. She's not feeling very well. She's accused of the most serious crime a person can be accused of. She understands the gravity of it, and I think her emotions are appropriate.
Leslie Balin, a well-known defense lawyer, was her attorney at the time. But soon after, Balin asked to withdraw from the case. He and Latasha couldn't agree on how to move the case forward. So the judge appointed a new attorney, Junie Ganguly. From there, the legal process slowed down. There were delays, motions upon motions. Hearing dates moved from May to June to July. All the while, Latasha sat in custody, waiting as she had been denied bond. And then there was Tabitha Perry, Brodes' widow, who became a victim of a situation she knew nothing about. She had been betrayed. She had been lied to. She had watched her husband die right in front of her.
This was such a dramatic situation. And for her to find out this information or whatever this lady is saying while her husband is being killed, I could imagine how that, may feel.
While they sympathized with her, some people in the community felt sympathy for Latasha because they believed Brodes had also betrayed her. They felt she was a victim too, even though she shouldn't have gotten involved with a married man to begin with. Others, however, made no excuses for her. They struggled to understand how a woman so educated, so successful, could destroy her life like that over an illegitimate relationship with a married man. In the end, this story isn't just about the crime, because people have been killed for less. It's more about how flawed and hurting people can be. It's about a man raised in the church, shaped by a legacy of faith, who eventually loses his way. It's about a woman who dedicated her life to helping others, but couldn't help herself during the most challenging time of her life. And it's about a wife who trusted, loved, and followed her husband, only to be left with grief, betrayal, and scars that may never fully heal. Pastor Brodes Perry was 36 years old. May his story serve as a warning about the destructive power of deception and the terrible cost when promises are broken. I hope this story helps you recognize the warning signs and encourage you to seek help or offer support before it's too late. I'll see you in the next episode of Crime of Passion. Thank you for watching.